Okay, I don't see any others waiting to get on. They do have, I think, 13 minutes to get on before we count them absent. Welcome everybody. Just a reminder, doing the housekeeping thing to keep your audio muted unless you want to ask a question of our presenters or of the team. And also, you need to have your cameras on through the whole session. And with that, Nita, are you going to go around and let everybody say who they are?
Yes, we'll do that just like we did the first night. Start now. I'm going to start out with Nikki McNew.
Hey, I'm Nikki. We're with Alley Cat Cafe. We are a social and event space that doubles as a foster home for adoptable cats.
Thank you, Nikki. Becky Ramsey.
Hi, I'm Becky Ramsey, and I am an owner of Wendell Gardens currently, and I'm looking to expand into an agricultural preschool.
Thank you, Becky. Janet Meadows.
Hi, I'm Janet Meadows, and I own Mendota Expeditions. It's a river tubing and outdoor adventure small business on the North Fork of the Holston River near Mendota, and I'm just hoping to grow my business.
Thank you, Janet. Callie Jones.
Hi, I'm Callie Jones. I own the Glass Peacock. We teach classes, we repair stained glass, we do commission pieces, and we sell all the supplies for it.
Thank you, Callie. Gabriel Hunsaker.
Yeah, my name is Gabe Hunsaker. I'm a pharmacist at CVS in Marion, Virginia. Me and Cassidy we're trying to open up a business that kind of gives a healthier alternative to medicine. So
Thanks, Gabe. Is Amy Lunsford here? Megan Collins. Jennifer Lowe.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah, okay. It never works when I'm in this office. So I am an audiologist and I am looking to expand my services in the area because we really try to serve every type of population, not just private pay, but we take every kind of insurance here, which really helps a lot of our patients because they think they're going to have to pay $5,000-$6,000 for hearing aids. So we really want to reach out and help everybody we can treat their hearing loss because it does lead to dementia if you have hearing loss that you don't treat. And so lately we've been finding a lot of our patients also have dizziness and they're living with that and they're falling and having a higher fall risk puts them at a higher risk of mortality. So we also want to try to help like mitigate some of those things, by offering those treatment services in our office. So we're looking to expand our services this year if possible.
Thank you, Jennifer. Megan Boardwine.
Hi, I'm Megan Boardwine. I'm with the Bookseller. We are a used bookstore. We just opened at the very tail end of May. We're a used bookstore, but we also do author events like writing workshops and stuff like that.
Thank you, Megan. Danielle Charette.
Hi, I'm Angelina. My mom and I, Danielle Shred, are partners for Platter and Pour. We are a wine and charcuterie bar that also has a smaller retail section as well. We just opened in December. We're really working to bring locals to Abingdon a new taste of dining and some new experiences, as well as bringing in some more tourists and giving a nice place for them to kind of hang out and see more of the Abingdon Commons.
Thank you, Dan. Or, excuse me, Angeline. Sorry about that. Jeremy Blackwell.
Hi, I'm Jeremy. I own Epic Training Center. So obviously we do fitness and everything in a more holistic view with fitness at the center, and then also recovery and then dieting. Most of our classes are coach led, so it's a community built type of gym instead of your traditional key fob. And we actually just closed yesterday, so we're official.
Congratulations. Thank you, Jeremy. Cassie Rowe.
Let me finish chewing my dinner. I'm sorry. So I'm Cassie Rowe. I am representing Shake in Abingdon. We are a couture milkshake and bake shop. We have the giant milkshakes. We have the gourmet goodies, all the things. So definitely come and see us if you've got a sweet tooth. Everybody does in one form or another.
Thank you, Cassie. Scott Rowe.
Hello, my name is Scott Rowe. We're opening a Touch of Grace. It's going to be an inspirational / Christian store. It's just going to have things in there to help keep you motivated, help you keep moving on your journeys and stuff like that on whatever fight you're going against. It's just going to be a great shop, I think.
Thank you, Scott. John Wood.
Oh, sorry. My mute button. My name is John Wood, and I'm looking to open a retail business that will bring in multiple vendors and artisans and local makers that will be home, not necessarily homemade, but home of Abingdon curators to sell in the business that will be geared toward our focus on our tourists. Can't think of the word. For bring our tourists in, and that way they can come in and shop locally, shop small business, and be able to take away a souvenir from their visit in our quaint little town.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
And Kitsy Manuel.
Hey, Kitsy here, and I own Love and Light Specialty Boutique. We carry and resell clothing, accessories, bags. We have a handful of local makers, but we are going to be pivoting this year as we're growing and changing with the times. So that's what we're here for.
Thank you, Kitsy. Sandy, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say welcome back to session 2. And I hope you all got a lot out of last week's session and took lots of notes, and it's helping you as you move forward. And one of the reasons that Nita asked everyone to introduce yourself, that's like your 30-second pitch, and that's part of the contest, is to have your pitch ready. So you need to start working on that, and I sure hope that you're working on your business plan already. But just let me know if you have any questions, and we'll be happy to help you. I want to introduce our panelists tonight. We're lucky to have these folks. Where did you go, Billy? I see you now. I see him on my. Billie Roberts has the pleasure of working with me at Locus. Billy has worked in both the private sector and in local government sector, and came to work with at that time Virginia Community Capital and Locus several years ago. And Billy helps me in Southwest Virginia, but also helps our lending team. And Billy's going to lead our credit session tonight. And then joining us, I guess coming the farthest on his Zoom, coming through the wires, is Carl Knoblock. And if you don't know Carl, he's the district director of the Virginia Small Business Administration. And I will say, I consider Carl a friend of not only me, but of Southwest Virginia. In my 34 years in working in economic development, I've never seen an SBA director take a more conscientious role in supporting of Southwest Virginia. And I so appreciate that. And I don't want Carl, don't retire before me, because Southwest Virginia, I can't work without you. So, Billy, Carl, do y'all have a preference? Who wants to go first? I'm cool either way.
Let Billy go first since she's not feeling well. And then
Okay.
that way, if she needs to get off, she
Hey,
can.
Billy, can you share yours?
Yes, let me get situated. I'm sorry, guys. I have that good singing voice, right? The
Yes.
raspiness.
And if
But
anybody has any questions for Billy or Carl as they are presenting, raise your hand or post those in the Q&A section or however, and we'll make sure those are getting addressed, because all part of this is training and learning on your part. So I will shut up.
let me see. Let me try to fix that, Sandy. Let me know. There we go. Does that look good on your screen?
You got it.
Okay.
Go.
All right. Well, very nice to meet all of you. I really enjoy, I know you guys probably have to do that every single session, but it is very helpful to your presenters to know kind of who we're talking to and how to engage with you guys, because it is all about the discussion. This presentation on credit reports is really it's at a high level, right? So like it'll touch on like the very intermediate type stuff. And it's really just an overview of credit reports and how important they are in general. As far as your small business goes, I will say that typically when you're going in for, financing, that type of thing at your local bank or any other bank, whether you're an existing business, like 1, 2, 3 years, or you're just starting out, they're going to use your personal credit report when they pull. So it is very important that you keep those things in order and maintain. But if you have any questions, if I can't answer them, or Sandy or Carl can't answer them, I will do my best to find the answers for you as we move through. So credit reports and credit scores. I'm sure Sandy has told you guys about Locus. We were Virginia Community Capital. We are now Locus. We went through a rebranding. But we are a community development financial institution. So I like to say that's just a fancy name for a bank that likes to put their money into projects that impact communities, into meaningful investments. But our CDFI works with larger $250,000 or more type loans. There are micro lenders available in our area. It's People Incorporated, and we work very closely with them. I will say, in your guys' situations, I work with a lot of startups. It is really difficult, even if you go to your local bank, to get if you need some loan funds. The microlender, the CDFI microlender, People Incorporated, they are structured to kind of help. They will help startups. They'll help restaurants. Restaurants are hard to get financing, especially if you're new. So that's something to keep in mind. Another resource for you guys, if you need some cash, capital to get you going, is check with your local government. Go to your town hall, ask to speak to the economic development person or the industrial development authority or EDA director. Sometimes they'll have in-house revolving loan funds where you can get you maybe $5,000-$10,000 if you need a piece of equipment. Your ice machine breaks down, which doesn't sound like a big thing, but when you're a restaurant, that can be devastating. So we can talk about those more. If you have questions, let me know, and I'll do my best to help you navigate through that. So we're just going to talk about the history of credit reporting, some valid uses of credit reports, sources of credit information. I will show you a sample credit report, and then information contained in the report, how to get your free credit report every year, how to go through the dispute process, what credit scores are, and some steps on how to improve your credit scores. So a credit report is a record of how an individual has applied for, received, and repaid credit obligations in the past. The history of credit reports is pretty interesting. It's, when merchants were developed, they decided to give credit to the people in the community. But then there was the different merchants started to talk to each other and realize, Bob down the way, he doesn't do a good job at paying his tab back. He's $200 behind, and this merchant said, "Oh my goodness, I wish I had known that, or I wouldn't have given him credit on this." So through that, the population shift after World War II, they decided that the merchants needed to share account information in order to protect their businesses. And so the credit reporting industry was established. Fun fact, a lot of people believe that the credit bureaus are a federal or state agency, and they are not. It is actually a private industry. So private meaning they make money on every part that they do. So keep that in mind. Let's see. Credit reporting today, because of increased access to credit and decreased time for credit granting decisions, improved mobility of credit, and a greater access to consumer products and services, credit reports have been an increasingly, it's a business. Equifax, TransUnion, all of those decided to say, hey, we'll provide a service for these merchants, businesses, banks, loan providers that are looking for a way to see if they're making a good decision, and they provided that service and established a business. So how can your credit report be used? Credit approval, employment. I'm sure several of you here know of or have had your credit checked for employment purposes. Underwriting for insurance. It can affect your insurance rates. Professional licenses. IRS can pull it, or court orders, and reviews for collection. I think it's interesting that pretty much, you have some debtors or creditors that end up on your credit report and some that do not, and that's because they have to pay a fee to get there, right? So if you're interested in building your credit, and let's say you go to the local furniture store, right? That's locally owned. They may not report to your credit bureau, but you've paid them diligently, every time. So that's something to consider if you're trying to build your credit. So where do credit reporting agencies obtain their information? So we just touched on that for a minute. It's consumers, creditors, public records, internal and external inquiries, consumer statements, and collection accounts will all could potentially pull your credit report. Here is an example of what your credit report would look like when you pull it out. Let's see. So some things to pay attention, all of it is important to pay attention to, but a lot of people might just kind of glance over the personal identification information, which is your name, your current address, your previous addresses, and your employer. Of course, obviously, your social security number and date of birth are very important, but look at all the names that come up. Has anybody ever noticed a name on their credit report that wasn't theirs? I have. I had it was an old boyfriend, was never married to him, nothing. We didn't even share a place that we lived together. And at one time I pulled my credit report and it said my first name with his last name. So and then addresses are the same way. You may have it. What's important about that is that one simple thing, there could be things on your credit report that's attached to that inaccuracy. And if you dispute that inaccuracy, say, hey, this is not my name, Equifax, TransUnion, they have to remove that within a certain amount of time. And then if there is an inaccurate report, something reporting on your credit report that's attached to that, it will also disappear, right? So pay attention closely and don't ignore it. Even if it's an initial, let's say your middle initial is incorrect, make sure that you get that taken care of. Same with your previous addresses. You were like, yeah, well, that's a previous address. It doesn't really matter. Yes, it does. Make sure to take care of that. The alerts and validations, very important as well. If there's a security alert, consumer statement is also very important, I think. Let's say something happened and you lost your job. A lot of times with COVID, and let's say that you missed like 2 payments on a credit card or your vehicle loan, and you want to explain that. Or maybe there was a divorce and you had to file bankruptcy, right? That's you can go log in to any of the like Equifax, TransUnion, and I'm blanking on the third one. What's that third one's name? Y'all know? Equifax, TransUnion. I see you, Carl. You want to say it?
Credit Karma?
Experian.
Experian, yeah. Just log in and they'll have a dispute process there or a place where you can leave a statement. Any information you can put there to kind of explain. Because the banks, if you're applying for a loan of any type, they will look at that, and then it opens up for conversation. Let's see. Let's move on to the next one. Again, that's just an up close of the personal identification information. Credit account information, credit history. This is a good one. I like this one as well. It kind of gives you an overview of everything that you have out there, and the amount of debt that's out. That way you can get an overview of what your creditor is looking at. Public record information, collection agency account information, that's also good information to have. You can always, like, let's say there's something on there that you don't know what it is, take that information, give them a call, tell them what your name is. That it could be an inaccurate reporting of a debt that really wasn't yours. You can always reach out to them. You can also try to set up arrangements with them. Let's say that, oh my gosh, I had no idea that old medical bill was on there. Give them a call. Say, hey, can we set up, or can I pay this in full today? And you guys, in return, take this off my credit report. You'll be surprised how many people are willing to work with you if you just reach out to them. Don't ignore it. That's the biggest thing. Just do not ignore it. And you can also see the inquiries, which is also important. So I don't know about you, but in my mailbox, there's all kinds of junk mail. And if you want to stop that, or you're trying to build your credit and you don't want any more of these really high interest rate credit card applications, you're pre-screened, you're pre-qualified, blah, blah, blah. You can call this number or log into optoutprescreen.com. It's really simple. You just fill out a form and it will stop that. And then at that point, it is illegal. They cannot send you anymore. So great way to clean out your mailbox with offers from credit or insurance agencies. Okay, so we'll just do a little quiz. I have these throughout, just kind of keeps you guys interested with some real life stuff. I am married, but I have different credit information than my husband. Is that true or false? That's right. It's true. You might share the same last name, or you might share credit. Let's say that you and your husband or you and your wife are both on your home loan. That same loan will show up on both of your credit reports, but you do not share the same. Each credit report is individual to each Social Security number. But you can't, but let's say that your house is just in your spouse's name. It would be on theirs and then not yours. But you could have the same debt on both accounts. That makes sense? Any questions, guys? My credit report contains information about my recent divorce. True or false? Yeah, I see a couple heads shaking it. That's right. It's false. Yeah, it is false. So there will never be anything about your personal life on your credit reports. Like, divorced, single, married, anything like that. That won't show up there. Now, there could be results of things from your divorce that show up on your credit report, like bankruptcy, or if you missed some payments on things, that type of thing. And then that's when you can utilize that consumer or that comment box to kind of help guide whoever's looking at your credit report through any recent events that happened in your life. Okay. So what information is not on your credit report? Just like we talked about, no personal information. So no demographic stuff, really, like race, religion, medical history, political affiliation, checking or savings account information will not be on there, and any other information that's not directly related to credit. All right. So let me see here. I can't read what that says. How do you obtain your credit report? So you can get one free report every year. And you can do that by going to annualcreditreport.com, and you just fill in your information, and you'll be able to get that report for free, just like we saw it, just like that sample report. Let's say that you want to access it more than that one time a year. You can go to any of the agencies directly that we mentioned, Equifax, TransUnion, or Experian. And you'll see sometimes they're a little different. It just depends on how the creditor is reporting your payments, right? They may not report to all three. They may only report to one of them. So it could look a little different. And there could, like, your Experian credit report could not have any, could be impeccable, no inaccuracies, whereas your Equifax credit report could have 2 additional addresses that you have no idea where they came from. So it is a good idea at some point to pull all 3 of those if you can. And of course, just put your personal info, and you will have to provide your social security number. That's how it is connected to you. So do that. I don't need to check my credit report because I pay my bills on time. True or false? That's right. He's taking a said no. False. And that's because of things we just talked about, right? Not only you can do all of the things right the whole time, but people are stealing identities every day, right? And so it's important just to keep an eye on it and protect yourself, especially when you're starting a new business or thinking about buying a new home or investing in something in the future. Very important. So the importance of reviewing your report annually, you can discover identity fraud. This is a fun story. Well, not really a fun story. It's just interesting, I think. But I'm sure everybody here can relate to somebody on Facebook saying, "Oh, my account's been hacked. Don't accept any friend requests." So my account's been hacked. It's really that shows you how common it is. But there was an article I had read at one point that, like, Facebook passwords, social security numbers, emails, all have a dollar amount attached to them on the black market, right? So, like, Facebook passwords could be like, you get 5 cents for each Facebook login, right? And password. So so it's really, really super. Imagine what, like, I guess a credit card, you get this 2 pages of credit card numbers, right? Some might have great limits, but people are buying those on the black market. So it's important to protect what you have. Keep accurate reports on file, and it helps set goals to improve or maintain information on your report when you review it annually. Just get in the habit of doing it, maybe when you do your taxes, So it is up to the credit reporting agency to verify information before they put it on my report. True or false? Right, false. So again, just to echo some of the things that we've talked about before, these are private companies. They're not government agencies, even though they are regulated and have some rules. Now, the free annualcreditreport.com, where you can pull that one report for free every year, that's one of the things that they've enacted. So they give you that opportunity for every single person to pull that report, and then it's on you. The burden lies on you, the individual, to check your report, make sure everything is accurate, and dispute anything that you don't see that is correct. All right. So the dispute process if errors are found in a credit report. So typically you can just log in online, and you'll see, it's really easy to see. It'll say dispute here, and you'll be able to fill it in. You can do that on the credit bureau website. Sometimes if something, let's say that you dispute a debt that you had paid or an old address or something like that, and you get you're not getting any information back, because it happens sometimes. You can dispute things snail mail in writing, and I would suggest you try that too. Not a lot of people do that, but keep very good records. Send in the mail with the return receipt, so you know when they received it. You've got proof of all of that. And there are certain time periods, and you can look it up. They have a certain amount of time that they have to respond. And if they don't, then that's another reason that it has to be removed from your report. You can also dispute directly with the creditor. So that's good information to know as well. And again, keep all records of all of your correspondence.
Billie, we have a question in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Asking if you can get a free credit report from all three companies, or are you limited to just one per year?
I think it is one per year from freeannualcreditreport.com. I'm pretty sure. The other ones, if you would go in directly, I think you have to pay. But don't quote me on that.
I use Credit Karma, and that gives me Equifax and TransUnion, and that's free service. It's called Credit Karma, and I use it all the time just to keep track of what's going on in my credit.
Yeah, I do too. Credit Karma gives you Equifax and TransUnion.
Credit Karma will always also give you a copy of your credit score too, right, Sandy?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So we're leading right into the credit score. Most everybody knows it's a 3-digit number that the creditors use to assess the likelihood that consumers will repay their debts and make payments on time. I know everybody's seen that scale, 600 to 700, good or fair, 700 to 800, very good. Sorry, my dog is barking at something. I don't know. But it's just an easy way. A lot of people get stuck on the credit scores, but knowing what we know from banks and financing companies, whether be car, home, whatever, it's just a good gauge, right? Don't ever get discouraged or think, well, there's no way I can get a loan just because I don't have a 700 credit score. The key is just to communicate and have a good relationship with whoever you're thinking about getting financing from. So where can you find your score? You can purchase your score when you request your free report from freeannualcreditreport.com. But also, Credit Karma allows you to see your score for free anytime at creditkarma.com. I get my credit scores monthly from a credit card that I have. They provide that as a service to me, which is really nice. I like being able to keep up with that way. And this is a slide on how the score is generated. The purpose of this is just to show you how important things are. And it's kind of like a game. It's kind of like a chess game, right? You got to kind of play the game and make sure you're, doing what putting things in priority of what's important. So payment history is 35% of your credit score. What's owed out to creditors is 30%. Length of credit history is important, but not, a lot of people get stuck on that. It's only 15%. Types of credit that are in use, and the amount of new credit is 10%. So bottom line is, don't miss any payments. That'll really knock your score down. It's amazing what one time will do. So you need a score above 700 to get a preferred interest rate. True or false? That's a tricky one. I see some heads moving like, I mean, it depends on what agency you're going to, right? Like so that's what we just talked about. So each individual creditor has their own criteria, and it depends on the programs that they have available. So I think 700 is a great credit score, but there's no rule, right, that says it's going to be a preferred interest rate. So how can you improve your credit score? We'll just review that. Be sure that your credit report is accurate. Pay your bills consistently and on time. Reduce your balances on your credit card accounts and keep them low. Consider limiting the number of credit cards used. Reduce inquiries by limiting new credit applications. That's a good one because there's hard and soft hits. We won't go into that, but I know most of you have probably heard about that before. Just be very conscious of how often you are applying for credit cards. Or like if you're going in for a car loan, be very active with the financing agent on exactly who they're checking your credit with and how many companies it's going out. I've seen that turn really bad for some people in the past. And avoid companies who claim they can improve your score for a fee. Just be wary of that. Here's some more questions, just real quick. We'll go through them that I think these are pretty interesting. So how long does a consumer owe borrowed money? Until they pay, settle, or they are bankrupt. Okay. How long can the derogatory information be reported by the credit bureau? 7 years plus 180 days by law is how long derogatory information can be reported by the credit bureau. So let's say that you have an inaccurate derogatory information on your report. If you don't pay attention to it, it could be there and hurt you for 7 years and 180 days. How long can a creditor pursue the consumer in the court system to force payment? In Virginia, it is 20 years. In Tennessee, it's 10 years. So the whole thing is just, be proactive. Don't ignore things. They don't just go away. It'll be a long time. So in summary, good credit is a valuable financial asset, especially if you are a small business owner or thinking about becoming a small business owner. It could, let's say, some businesses through the winter months after Christmas, it's a tough time. It really could make or break or make the difference if you're going to make it through that time, whether or not you're able to get some financing to help you through that. Review your credit report regularly and correct your errors promptly. Keep your credit card balances low, pay your bills on time every month, and build and then protect the good credit that you've built. Any questions, guys?
I have a question for you. Oh, I'm sorry. Did someone go first?
Ladies first.
Oh, it's John. John, you want to go?
No, go ahead.
Okay. My question was like, I figured out in the first little bit that like some credit cards, like you can earn a lot of cash back. Like if you're doing a lot of purchases for supplies and then paying it back. So right now I've been using the American Express one. And I was just wondering if you knew of any, like what are your top choices for like giving back to small business, like in terms of perks and stuff. And also I had a question about that new credit, like where it adds in on your pie diagram. Like I've noticed that things like will show on my credit as being new for like more than a year. So when they say like that new credit factors in like 15% or whatever it was, what is their definition of new credit? Like, is there a time on that?
I don't know the answer to that, but that is a very good question. Is there a time? I don't know. I'll have to look into that and let you know about that. And as far as the credit cards and the cash back, very, very good question. I mean, that would be a good thing for everyone to share if you know of some small business friendly credit cards. I'll have to reach out to Cindy and ask her. I think she'd be a good resource for that. Sandy, do you know of any right off? the top of your head?
I do not.
But I will follow up with you on that.
Kind of like
John?
what defines new credit. But I will say, if nobody knows about the American Express Blue Card, that it's a good, it's pretty good. Like, there are some months like that what we get back, pretty much pays like our part of the bill. Like by the time we've, changed everything over. So definitely, if you are going to be purchasing things and then turning around like net 30 days and paying them off, definitely look at American Express for small business. I just didn't know if anybody knew of any others.
Jennifer, did you call that American Express Blue Card or just American Express card?
I think she called it blue. Is that right, Jennifer?
You're muted.
Oh, you're on. Jennifer, you're on mute. I'm sorry.
It
won't come
Jennifer,
off.
You're muted.
I don't think it'll come off. I think she's having.
Sorry. It's been, I think it's blue. I think you have to kind of work your way up to the ones like depending on how much you spend and stuff. But for ours, it's been the blue card.
I'll also say I have heard good things about Square. So like if you have a point of sale system that you're having to use, Square also has a great loan program. I know that a couple of small businesses have participated in. Like you could take out like a small $3,000 to $5,000 loan, and what they do is they take a percentage out of each transaction, and then that pays your debt back that way. And they have been very happy with that. That is one of same type of thing, but not a card like you were talking about, Jennifer.
I utilize the Square financing options like that, and what I like about it is it's not a percentage, so it's not like compounded. It's like a fee, like one
Oh, it's a
fee,
fee.
one fee, and they add it on to the total that you owe. Obviously, so it's a percentage of whatever you borrow, but it is nice because it does automatically draw the percentage out of every transaction, so I don't have to remember to make the payment. And they've got it set up so like every I think it's like 60 or 90 days they have a certain amount that you should be able to pay off. And the loan terms I think are 18 months maybe. And so it does do well. But I do have a question. I've noticed on my credit that I have I think it's a credit card that went bad. Gosh, it's probably been 10 or 12 years ago. And what I've noticed is it'll go away for a little bit and then it'll pop back up under a different company name, like they've bought it from the other company. So how do you, like I said, it's been, quite some time. How do you deal with that? I mean, obviously pay it, but if you can't, is it considered a new debt every time that a different company buys that, or?
I don't know. That's interesting. I might dispute that, like, because your debt was connected to a different card. Is that right?
Yeah. So like 10 or 12 years ago, I had a credit card and I got some poor financial advice that was just stop paying it. It'll go away.
Oh.
When I was younger,
Mhm.
and so anyway, finally it hit my credit and collections and all that, and it was under the original company, and then it got sold off to a collection agency, and then at least twice now, I believe I've seen it disappear from my credit and then show back up because it shows the original creditor on it. But it's under like different collection agencies, I guess, twice at least.
That is very interesting. I do not know, but I might.
Billy,
ahead, Carl.
the thing you got to remember is it's 20 years. So they can still, whoever buys it and
Mhm.
basically go after you until that 20-year mark. If you're at 12, they still got 8 more years on it.
Okay. Okay.
So
Wow,
you
yeah.
have to
Yeah.
realize that.
Okay. And then I just have one more comment. I bank with First Bank and Trust, and they do offer your credit score. If you do the mobile app, you can kind of scroll down a little bit further, and it does show my credit score. So the bank is allowing me to see my credit score without having to pull anything like that. So it's a nice feature as well if anybody
Yeah.
banks with First Bank and Trust.
That's great, Cassie. Thank you. You know what you might want to do too with that keeps showing up is call them, call the creditor, whoever's servicing that debt, call them and see if they'll settle with you. Like if you got some extra cash, just be like, hey, will you take, 20% of what's owed? It's better than, I bet you they bought the debt for pennies on the dollar. Right. So could try it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
John, ask your question.
Thank you. So I've got a question and a comment. So first, the question, you had mentioned that for new owners, they're going to pull your personal credit first. So what is the burden? You have to, I know, keep an eye on your own credit, but does that also fall on the burden of proof is onto you to prove those disputes? Say if I got something I noticed that was 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I obviously been 10 years ago. I have no documentation. I have no proof being that far back, but I do know that it's not right. How do I provide that burden of proof to the credit agency that is a dispute, a valid dispute, and what will they accept to be able to remove that? And I've also heard that when you dispute something, even if they remove it, the damage is already done. It takes forever and a day for them to fix your credit. So the damage is already done. Your credit is already hurt. So that's kind of a two-part question, and I'll make my comment after you answer.
Okay. I have a little bit of personal experience with this. I would just suggest you do some research. Is it on all, decide if it's on all 3 of your credit reports, that way you know who you're dealing with. Do a little bit of research on who's had success having these things disputed within them. I personally had something removed by saying simply, this is not mine. Right? Like I sent him a letter and said, this does not belong to me. This is not mine. But with that being said, I did it snail mail. I made sure I had all of my proof, right? And I made sure you also need to research, there's timelines, even though they're not, federal and state organizations, they are regulated, right? So they do have they were required by law to answer within a certain amount of time and, make a decision, all that stuff. If they do not, then you send them another letter and say, you have not responded in the, this set amount of time, please remove this from our report. And if you look online, do a little bit of research, you can find templates and stuff like that to help you with the wording. But I would suggest in cases like that, just go ahead and do it snail mail. Don't do it because you can imagine what they get through the internet.
Right, and that when say they may remove it, but the damage is already done to the credit score.
Well, I know.
And even though I didn't notice it 10 years ago, that falls back on me. So I guess that's my burden to bear, is that I got a bad score because I didn't take the time to notice it 10 years ago.
I think that's why it's encouraged to check it annually, at least once a year. Keep an eye on it, protect yourself. Right? Yeah. So it is they put the burden on us to make sure that our things are protected. Yep.
Billy, Carl, how important is it to dispute incorrect addresses and phone numbers on your credit score? Is it?
I always do it. Number one, because if you dispute incorrect address or an incorrect phone number, there is probably an incorrect something like debt that's connected to that. And if you get that incorrect information deleted, that incorrect debt or whatever that's connected to it will also disappear. But that works for the good stuff. I've had good things disappear that was like helping me out, like with credit history and stuff like that because of an old address. Yeah. Or bad
Megan, you
address.
got a question?
Yeah, I have a couple. Um, First of all, so I know like starting a new business, we're using your credit score if your business has not established credit. I guess my question is, once your business does establish credit, how much does your credit feed into that? And does your business's credit affect yours? Does that make sense?
So really, I think, and help me with this, Carl and Sandy. There's really no like business credit report except for like Duns and Bradstreet, right?
Okay.
And maybe you can talk a little bit more about that, Carl, and what types of businesses that really pertains to.
What it comes down to, what they look at most seriously is your payment schedule. Are you paying your bills on time? Are you pushing them out 60 days out, 90 days out? That's what they're really looking at, because that really determines how well the business is doing with it. If you're the person that's tied directly to that business, it will, and your taxes are basically, let's just say it's a simple, then it can potentially have an impact on your credit score.
Carl, do all businesses is there a certain size business that can get a Duns and Bradstreet, or can any business register their Duns and Bradstreet?
Any business can register. I tell them not to.
Okay.
Until they are definitely creating significant dollars. And the reason I say that is Duns and Brad will say they will help you if there's ever any issues or anything.
Right.
But if you're very small, they don't waste their time.
Okay.
And so I tell people, unless you're really generating some significant dollars, don't even go in that direction, because it's not cheap to get into it.
Right.
So from that standpoint, and most lenders and things like that, once they know your dollar size of your business, they're going to look at your personal credit if it's small dollars. And so to give you context, okay, most lending institutions, if I walk in and I say I want a $10,000 loan, I have to jump through 100 hoops for my $10,000 loan. If I go in and say I want 5 million, pretty much they're talking and working a deal with me and see what kind of interest rate I'm going to get now. And that's kind of the sweet spot, because they already assume if you're asking for 5 million, your operation is solid, it's got history and everything else. So that's something you have to kind of realize when you're dealing with lenders. It's one of the sweet things you do when you're doing research of your lenders. Do the history search of what is the average size loan they do typically. So like you heard Billie get on and she talked about Locus. She said $250K right off the bat. If you know that, then, and you only want 10,000, don't waste the energy. And so I tell people that those are things you kind of pay attention to with it. And then also when you're working with the lenders is what's your percentage that are going to home loans, commercial loans, and actually going to other businesses. Because if they're heavy into the home loan market, you're not going to get a loan. So those are things you kind of have to do your due diligence on.
Yeah, it might be good to mention, Carl, as you're talking, it popped in my head. So when you're a new business, or even when you're an existing business, when you're going into a bank or thinking about financing, some of the things that they'll ask you for are typically it's 3 years of past financials. And let's say you're a brand new business, you've only been in business for 6 months. They're going to ask you for that 6 months and then your projections for the next 3 years. So it's very, very important that you keep really good records as you're going through. 3 years will pass like that. And that's what you have when you go to a bank. And then I think there's something to be said for forming relationships too with your local banks, and so keep that in mind.
They're also going to ask for, if you don't have a established credit with your business itself, they're going to ask you for your personal information, tax returns for 3 years.
That's right. Yep.
I had one other statement real quick that I heard this from a financial officer. So this was about 2 years ago. So I'm assuming it's still good today, but there is nothing wrong and actually it's encouraged with shopping around, that you have a 30-day window. You can get hit with this same hit. Like if you're going to purchase a car, you can go to 6 or 7 different dealerships and you can say, yeah, run my credit. It will be under that one hit. It's not going to hit your credit 7 different times. Whereas, because it's within the 30-day window. But after 30 days is up, you're still shopping for a car, that's going to be a separate hit. That's still true. It's not.
I don't trust it. What do you think, Carl and Sandy? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I would be scared to do all of that. I mean, I think everything in media, and as long you can't do like 100. That's what I mean. Like something's going to hit more than one, right?
Yeah. Typically, what they look at is, and typically it's really more like a 2-week window, because that's when most people are really focused on like shopping for cars and things like that, home shopping. They're very focused. And so it's a short window that you're really hunting around. And then typically after that 2 weeks, there's usually a pause, even though it's 30 days, but it's usually a pause because people feel if they don't get anything, they pause at that point. They just had nothing hit them. So, and that typically it's beyond the 30 days. But I always tell people, don't look beyond 2 weeks.
I just sell cars, and when I talk to the finance manager, try to help my skills of building credit, or not building credit, but helping set customers' minds at ease. Like, you know what? You're more going to shop around, but you're going to find me be a better price. You got 30 days, and you're going to get with that same credit. And when you finish at the end of 30 days, and you see that I've got the better deal, you're going to come buy from me. So that's the reason why I brought that up, is because that's what I was told from the finance manager.
Okay. Well, thanks, Billy. I appreciate it. And just for you all, your information and a reminder, if you remember after the first session, Nita sent out an email with a link to a folder that has like materials and templates on it, but I'm also putting all the presenters' slides or PowerPoints in there. So go there and shop around if there's something that you missed. And of course, this is being recorded and it'll be up on our up for you to view as well. So next up is Mr. Carl Knoblock. Carl, I'm turning it over to you.
All right, I will try to share my screen here. Did it come across?
We have made liftoff and contact.
Okay. Anyway, I'm talking about managing a small business, and let me give you a little background about myself. Over the years, I've owned multiple businesses, everything from manufacturing to high tech to low tech. And so, and I will tell you, I've been turned down many times by lenders, even when I've been profitable for over 10 years. So it's nothing personal. It's just business. That's what I always tell people. So as you go forward, don't get discouraged when people tell you no. Just think about it when you're, the child at 2 years old and you hear no every day. So it all falls in place eventually for you where somebody's willing to do the deal with you. But tonight, what I'm going to talk about is managing a small business, because, one of the most difficult things, and those of you that have started your business and those thinking of starting a business, most of the time you're wearing all the hats, and that can get overwhelming at times. And that's kind of what we're going to try to talk about tonight, is keeping that perspective of who you are through this process as we go forward. So we're going to talk about you, human capital, insurance, market and sales, logistics, manufacturing, if anybody necessarily falls into manufacturing, finances, and then IT, AI, cyber, and disaster. And I know a lot of you say, well, I'm just a small business. I'm just a restaurant. I will show you cases of where the small business have taken down big companies with transactions, with malware and things like that. So it's really important that you understand that you're an intricate part. Now, taking a look at you, typically these are 3 qualities that you need to really have a very successful business. You need creativity, you need somebody that knows how to do risk, and you need somebody that knows how to manage. You have to look at yourself and determine, what am I? Unfortunately, nobody's good at all of them. You can do it for brief periods, but in the long run, you will eventually burn out. So there's a spot you fall into, and when you fall into that spot, it kind of identifies what kind of business you should actually be doing. So the one thing I always tell people with managing, if they're really strong managers, I always tell them, go get a franchise, because the model's already developed. You just have to manage it. And so it's kind of understanding that concept. Lots of times, if you're really creative, and every 10 minutes you got a new idea and everything, you struggle to keep your business moving in a forward direction because your mind's always changing. And so these are things you got to keep in mind and learn how to balance yourself to keep yourself moving in the direction you want to move through the process. And that's sometimes why you end up missing opportunities in that. But if you truly understand yourself, you kind of know what kind of people you have to get, either as mentors or people that eventually you hire to complement you. I always say, don't get the same people that are like you, because it doesn't go well. In human capital, the most important asset for growth, and it's your people. They can make or break you. The one thing I always try to stress to people, I always hear people says, I need a technical expert. I need technical. I need technical. I need expertise. And I'm going, and when you're a small business, it's not about expertise. It's about chemistry. It's about the team as a unit working together. That will give you more return and more success and growth than having all the experts in the world on your team. Because the one thing I've learned with experts, they have their own ego. And if it conflicts with yours, you're trying to overlook it because they're the expert. It eventually leads to the downfall of the company. And I've seen it more than once happen to businesses through the process. And understand, if you're in the business, which several of you have identified, as I call it, the people person business, there's 2 types. As I always say, there's the one that deals with your external customers, the people walking in through the door, and then also the internal. Those are basically how they work with your team. What you're trying to find is somebody that's able to do both. You'll be amazed how some people are really good with one or the other, but they're not good with both. So keep that in mind as you're looking at people you bring into your team you go through the process. One thing I always tell people, get interns. They're a great asset. And if you find that star, you'll find a way to keep them. I learned that a long time ago. I always had interns. And as I tell people, I wasn't looking for them to do things for me at that time. What I was looking for was my star. And if I did, I created a position for them because I know they would help me grow further in the future because of what they were bringing to the table. So it's just simple things to remember as you move forward. Finding talent, and then your software, and now we're dealing with artificial intelligence, especially over the past year, the chat GBT. It's a game changer. And you need to kind of understand that and figure out how you can capitalize on it. I've been amazed at how companies have been very proactive and actually helping develop their strategic plans, their business plans, everything. And it's been very interesting seeing the dynamics of it. So please don't shy away from it. It is what the future is going to be like, and it will become a part of your operation as you move forward in this process. The one thing I want to stress to all of you, I don't even care if it's a husband and wife team and that's all you are right now. Make sure there's job descriptions, because heaven forbid, if there's ever a divorce, you want everything spelled out, whose roles and what they were doing. If you don't, it comes back to really haunt you at divorce time. But at the same time, it sends a very clear direction what everybody's roles are in there. And like I said, it's most difficult person to work with is your loved one, whether it's your spouse or your children, a brother or sister, your parents. And that's why I always tell people, this keeps things in perspective, and everybody understands their actual role. So just as a recommendation, I can't tell you how many businesses I've dealt with that eventually ended divorce because there was not a clear line of sight when they got in together. The one thing is, before you hire your first person, make sure you have an employee manual, because I can tell you that when that first person quits on you and they file for unemployment, even though they weren't showing up to work and everything, if you don't have an employee manual, you lose. And so I always tell people, if you don't have your guidelines spelled out, no matter what you challenge, you lose. So please make sure you have that available. There's plenty of software tools. Your small business development centers do a great job of providing information about that. So just be aware of that as you move forward with your operation. Several of you are going to have employees very quickly because you just have to, because of the nature of your business. The other thing is I always tell people, confidentiality agreements. If you have secret recipes, special ways that you find your client base, ways you do your marketing and things like that, you want to make sure that's protected if you're going to share it with people. So you make them sign a confidentiality agreement. So if they leave, they can't basically share it with someone else or try to launch a business with it, because that kind of protects you. Typically, they're only good for 2 years. So just remember that it won't go past that limit if you were ever challenge it. A non-compete agreement, I always tell people to get that, because at the end of the day, they're going to try to take your customers. And this is a way that you stop it, because this sends a very clear line of sight. I can't tell you how many businesses have been burnt because they didn't have a non-compete agreement. And people came in and took their customers because they were the face touching. And basically when they left, they took the customers. And the simplest one to give you an idea, and people wouldn't think about it, is a hair salon. How many hair salons do not do non-competes? And then how many actually go out and start their own? They take their customers with them. And so these are simple things you need to think about. If you're going to, which several of you identified, you're going to have to comply with the American Disabilities Act. And you have to take that into account when you're getting a facility. to make sure everything's provided, because if not, that becomes a very quick lawsuit that you're trying to have to defend. So make sure you have that very well thought out, that people have access into your place for the different types of disabilities. And at the same time, if you have a bathroom that it's ADA compliant, these are things where companies have gotten themselves in trouble because this was not well thought out. And you have a lot of different dynamics going on now because it's expanded with mental health and everything else. So these are things you got to be aware of as you're looking into your business. Any of your business, OSHA's safety side for protecting the workforce. These are things you have to make sure you have the proper equipment, especially like when you talked about the Mendota expeditions on the water. Okay, are they wearing life preservers? Do they have helmets on? All those, are they certified in CPR? All these things are looked at. So these are things, if anything was ever challenged, to protect. And then some of you may have to comply with the Environmental Protection Agency that you thought you never would have to. If any of you are selling and your orders, especially products that you're making, even if it's baking, if it has a Prop 65 in it from California and you're shipping to California, you have to identify that on your labels and everything. So please be aware that even though you may be getting business for someplace else, you got to make sure you comply with the laws in those locations. So like when I was doing business, I did everything never to do business in California because it's probably the hardest place in the world to do business because all the requirements they have. So I basically eluded them because I just didn't want to deal with it. It was easier for me to do international business than it was for me to do business in California. And then the new thing out now, the diversity, equity, inclusion. You have to take these things into account as you are in your business operation, that you have this as part of your thought out formula because of the challenges that have been going on in the court of law and that during this time. The other thing, which is really fun and fascinating, and is the different generations working together. So your baby boomers, your millennials, your Gen Zs, Gen Xs. It's a very interesting time of how to get all those players to work together because they have different ways of thinking. They use technology differently. And these are things you kind of have to look at when you're going through the process. Hiring good talent. I know it's really challenging right now. Everybody I deal with is having nothing but nightmares of trying to find good help. And that's literally everyone. I haven't met anybody that just sits here and says, everything's going great. I just find people dropping left and right for me. Having that plan, if somebody doesn't come in, how do you handle that? It does happen, unexpected illness, family emergency, all these things come up, and you have to be aware of that. What is your salaries and benefits? That's why I always tell people that's why the employee manual is important. It keeps everything very clear, very well documented, and it protects you. And then if you're providing training, make sure you document the training because people have gone to the courts saying they weren't properly trained, and that's how they got hurt. And when the employer said, yes, I did, but then they were asked to show proof. So like on-job training checklist or something like that, or a training program they were sent to, or a training program they took online. And if they can't show anything, they basically lose. So these are things you have to be aware of when you're in business. Insurance. Okay. Unemployment insurance can be required, workers' compensation insurance. And then in some states, not here, but if you expand, disability insurance may be a factor. So it's something keep in your head that there are certain things you have to come. When you're getting insurance, you're always assessing risk, shop around, um, look for that business owner's policy that fits what you're doing, um, and get a good licensed agent to assist you. I know there's a lot you can do online, but when you're in business, you want to make sure that you have everything kind of really well understood what you're pursuing. The other thing I stress, and I stress this continuously, because seems to be one of the first places, the two first things most companies cut is they will cut their marketing, so trying to get business, new customers, and then they start cutting their insurance policies. And I can't tell you how many businesses have cut their insurance and then had a fire. So I really stress, I don't care how bad you're struggling, don't do this, because this will definitely haunt you for a very long time. And it is sad to see when people lose everything and you find out they just canceled their insurance just a short time ago. You can call it Murphy's Law or what, but it does happen. There's a bunch of different types of insurance: general liability, product liability, professional liability. Now we have cybersecurity. Business interruption is something happens like a flood, or there was power taken down. This is a way to kind of keep you whole, and to keep your employees together. So, it's something you have to think about depending on where you're located and your situation. And then in certain situations, especially if you're going for a loan, and they're not comfortable if like you are the main person, and if you happen to pass away, they know the business is going to go under. So they may ask for a life insurance on you, and that's a policy that's basically tied to the business. So if you happen to pass away, uh, the lender would get paid back. So just realize that has been asked for in the past. So be aware of that. I always tell people there's a business curve, and there's three things you're looking at: your business, where are you at? The industry curve, what does the industry curve look like? And then what the global curve looks like. Because this tells you how you have to design yourself. A lot of people, when they're really busy, they think they're in growth mode, and it's not that they're in growth mode, they're just busy. And they're not really growing. It's just that there's just an uptick, but it's not a continuous growth factor. It's just a bump. And so I always tell people this is truly understanding. If you understand how the industry's set up, lots of times you'll follow the same model as the industry. And if you understand the global concept, you will understand where you fit in the United States compared to the rest of the world. And this becomes a factor to kind of help you design your business properly for growth versus trying to go after it like gangbusters. I find businesses that feel if they go partner with someone, they'll make a lot of quick money. Yeah, you'll make some good money at start, but then eventually it goes away. So it's just a hiccup. And then you have nothing to build on because you put all your focus in just trying to get that quick money. So please understand that as you look at this, where are you at on that curve? And also, where's your industry in that curve? If your industry is mature, even if you're jumping in as a startup, understand it's not going to be a big growth business. And so you kind of have to realize that as you look through this, where do you fit in the scale of things? We are a global economy. As you talked about, several you've talked about is customers. One of the key questions I always ask people that are focused on customers and eventually repeat customers, I ask in Southwest Virginia, international customers, what countries do they come from? Can anybody answer that? That is a key question that you need to understand because they drive through. And if you understand that, you can capitalize on that and take advantage of it. And it's amazing how many companies do not know how many international people actually come through our area and don't know what countries they came from. Because at the end of the day, lots of times they may like what you offer. And if you have the ability to ship it, they would like to get it. And if you already have that in your head, now you kind of understand, okay, if I'm going to ship it internationally, do I have to worry about tariffs and everything else? You already kind of have these mindsets. A good number of your customers come from Canada. Understanding that, how do you take advantage of that? Because they do follow the I-81 corridor. They just do. And so it's just something to realize. Markets. One of the things I always stress to people, who is your target market? It's amazing how many people really do not know who their target market is. And so I tell people, especially with all the data you have today and everything, you should be able to hone in. If you're not good at that, work with the universities, get a student that's majoring in marketing. They can do the research for you, find it. You can reach out to the U.S. Census. They have and they can teach you literally how to do market research using census data. That's very quick and easy, and they're happy to do that. So those are things to be aware of. The product and service interest, most time that ties to your target market, age range, gender, all those type things come into play. Who's your competition? And, most of you know your direct competition, but who's your indirect competition? Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Most people are good at identifying their competitors, but they don't know their indirect competitors. So an example of an indirect competitor, so you kind of get the mindset. I'll put it on food because typically people can relate to the food. We're going out to get hamburgers. We go and we drive and we look at the lines and they're too long. So we decide that we're going to go get chicken. So you go to the chicken fast food place. So that's an indirect because that wasn't your main focus. Your main focus was a hamburger and all the hamburger places were filled. So your indirect was chicken. So you went to the chicken place. That's why restaurants are always very close together. Because if one's filled, people are going to go to another location because guess what? As Americans, we're very impatient and we don't like to wait. So we sit there and restaurants know that. Understand your price points. That's really important, especially when we add what's happened over the past couple of years with inflation in that. You got to really be thinking ahead to protect yourself. Is your operation going to have a trademark or a copyright? Make sure the USPTO Patent Trade Office is very good, has very good training programs on its website, and they are more than happy to assist you to guide you through the process if you're trying to pursue any of these. And then developing a market strategy. And once again, I say the small business development centers are good to assist you with those type things as you go forward with it. In the market, are you going to be electronic or not? Where are the locations you're going to be at? The understanding is, and this is why I always stress, no matter what, you should always have a website, no matter what. because you got to remember, people are coming from outside the region to your area, and the website's the easiest thing for them to look at. So you have to kind of realize that. You can tie everything else to it. That's not a problem, but having a website. If you really know your customer, you know what kind of electronic locations you want yourself at. I see too many people just put themselves on everything, and I'm going, none of your customers go to that. So why would you even go there? And I'll give a perfect example. In the federal government, everybody has X. But then you go to the small business community, hardly anybody uses X. So it's like, we tell that to our administration, and they look at us like, well, that's how we communicate. I said, yeah, but our small business don't live on X. So it's kind of understanding that dynamic of where's your customer actually at. Traditional, the business cards. Now we're doing Q codes, bump your phone. Everything is totally changing dynamically from what it used to be. But once again, there's a customer base that fits very well in this. And as long as you understand that, you can take advantage of it. There's still a lot of people that love radio. So it's a great location if you understand your customers. So please realize that different technologies and marketing materials will be used to get your story, but just don't grab stuff to say, well, I got a great price on this. I got 5,000 brochures for this price versus 1,000. And it's like, does your customer even grab these? How many places have you gone into and you looked at the brochure and you wonder, and you see how much dust is sitting on them? So that kind of tells you that the right customer is not going through there. In your sales, everybody talks about Google Analytics. I highly stress that you learn it and take advantage of it. Depending on what you are, you may get a business development person. Please learn forecasting. It's immensely helpful. Your pricing model, please do it right, because if you make a mistake, it's almost impossible to recover from it. It's really important to understand all the things that affect your price. And especially, one of the key components is, how much does that plate of food cost you? Because it should be the same amount practically on there for everyone. So what is that cost? New sectors, new products, services. How do you deal with customer complaints? That's a real big one, especially on social media, because you have to be responsive. You have to be quick responding, and you got to have a plan of attack. And ChatGPT is really becoming a big player in sales. As amazing as it may seem, I've been amazed how many people are jumping into that to try to use that to help with their sales aspect. Remember, you got customers. And if you have repeat customers, I always tell people that you're doing continuous business with, look at them. Who are your most profitable? Who are your least profitable? Why do I say that? Because if you get an opportunity for a big deal and it's going to put a strain on your business, it may be the time to let some of your least profitable customers go away, because they're not going to help you in the long run. And these are sometimes business decisions you have to make. So just be aware of that if you're in that line of work, in that line of business. E-commerce, which you've heard about. Now the new one, M-commerce, which is dealing with our mobile devices. This is a new way of thinking, and it's becoming more and more involved. And even just to do searches, what people think of your location, to make a decision whether they want to come there or not. So these are things to kind of keep in mind as you looking to try to market your business and scale it. If you're in logistics, which if you're getting anything brought into you, It's about suppliers. Please do not put all your marbles into one supplier, because it will hiccup and you will pay the price for it. I always tell people it should be at least 75-25, at minimum of two. So one gets 75% of your business, the other gets 25, because then if there's any issues, you always have a backup plan. Packaging is a big thing. And it's becoming a bigger issue as people talk about environmental and all that. So please keep that in mind as you deal with it, because if you're dealing with Gen Zers, they kind of have that focus about the environment, so they kind of take certain things a little bit further, and they do look at packaging and those type things. Weather, depending on where you get things from. So like my manufacturing facility, some of my raw materials were down on the Gulf Coast when a hurricane was coming, and I knew it was coming. I literally had to order rail cars of the material to bring up ahead of time and just have them sit someplace, because I knew they were going to shut down the production area for a period of time. So I had enough supply to take care of my customers. So these are things you have to think about when you're dealing with weather. So where you're getting your materials from, you have to kind of pay attention to the weather on the way and all that. Especially if it's something that's really sensitive, has a short lifespan and those type things. What are your payment terms? What are you working out? Do you need a warehouse? Not need a warehouse? These are things you weigh out, and that ties to your inventory or you're just in time. You have it, it's gone. As I go, Home Goods, TJ Maxx is kind of showing that model. Some of you that have the resale stores and all that, that's why they do so well, because people find those unique items that they can't find anyplace else, and they know once they have it, it's gone. And so that's kind of why those places are doing very well from a profit standpoint and things like that. I won't talk about manufacturing because I don't think anybody's doing manufacturing from what I could hear. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't hear anybody that fit in that category. Your finances. Please, the three bold ones you see here: cash flow, balance sheet, income statement. Those are the most critical that you have to understand. I cannot tell you how many small businesses have put all their faith in an accountant, and then all of a sudden the IRS is at their door. And guess who has to pay all the money back? It's not the accountant. It's you. And you have the bad record. And so please understand that. But if you understand these three, you're able to keep your accountant check. And so I just stress this because it happens more common than you realize. So as you look at this, as you move forward with it, please pay your taxes, especially your payroll taxes. You can kind of delay others and you'll get a little swat, but if you don't do your payroll taxes, there's no mercy. They do not give you a break. They go after you really rough. So please make sure you're always paying your payroll taxes. IT's intricate in all our businesses anymore. It's our backbone, literally, anymore. It hiccups, we hiccup. Are there any AI requirements? Your hardware, software. Everything's going to the cloud. I always recommend, please don't have your server anymore. Go to the cloud. It's going to protect you a lot better. Do you, understanding cybersecurity? Because remember, most issues with problems within your business come from your employees. A disgruntled employee is the one that causes your problem and cause most cybersecurity instances. So please realize that as you move forward. And those people that are very sophisticated with their smartphones understand how to work systems. So please pay attention to that. Providing training to let people know you know what's going on kind of makes people have a second thought not to try something. Disasters happen. And I always tell people have a contingency plan because basically 40% of the businesses, when a disaster happens, don't reopen their doors. And then basically, if they do open their doors within a year after that, another close to 35% close their doors because they weren't ready for it. They didn't have a plan in place. So I know it seems crazy. Well, why should I plan for that rainy day? And that famous saying, rainy day. That's why, because it's the one thing that can basically put you out of business very quickly when everything is going well for you. Your outside team, people will talk about accountants, your insurance rep, somebody who understands IT. If you have personnel, human capital, you may need a lawyer. If you're a and Billy said it several times. I know Sandy has said it, and more people will say it later. Develop the relationship with the lender because if they know you, it makes it much easier when you go talk to them. Also, get to know the local economic development because they keep you informed of opportunities that come up, especially special fundings and those type things, or activities they're thinking of doing that you could be a part of and take advantage of. So these are some things to think about as you go forward with it. Here's some resources. There's tons. As I always say, just hit Google and you can find anything you want, and you'll go good from there. The one thing for the strong team, and I can't not stress this enough, I said it right off the bat, it's chemistry, it's teamwork, it's no individuals, and then whether the team needs. Is artificial intelligence, is virtual a part of that or not? These are things to clearly understand because that's becoming a standard question anymore when people are looking for job opportunities and that. So please be aware of that as you build your team. Two things you cannot control: time. So something good could happen to you, something bad can happen to you, but you can't control it. And luck. I mean, I'm sorry, we've all had that happen in our life where we've had something unexpectedly happening, good or bad, that we weren't planning, but it did happen. So remember, those are two things you don't control, so don't worry about it. It's going to happen. And then last but not least, you're one hook away from success or a disaster. So understand that when you're a small business, especially starting out in that, you have to hit on all cylinders. You have one hiccup, it's a good chance you're done. And so please realize that make time for yourself to keep yourself in perspective, and don't let the business control you. You control the business. Too many people I see let the business control them. So please realize that as you go forward in your ventures, because it will help you in the long run. And that is it.
So, Carl,
yep.
Are you aware of it's not real recent, but the recent Supreme Court decision about non-competes?
Yeah.
So could we clarify? Because you can't just say, I'm going to give you a job, and for that, you have to sign a non-compete.
No,
that won't
no, it has to be something that could economically impact the company. I knocked my screen out. Sorry about that.
It kind of also, we were told, and I don't know if this is true, but it kind of also has to be more than you're offering another employee. Like it can't be for just a job. It has to be, you have to sign the non-compete compete for a sign-on bonus or for a contract that gives you some kind of benefit or
Well, it
something.
is where it comes into play is if it could economically hurt the company, that's where the non-compete comes into. So if somebody comes in and takes 25% of your customers, that's an economic impact to that business. And so that's where that non-compete, because you will be amazed how many people actually, typically 6 months to a year before they leave, they're actually, if they can take customers, they start lining them up. And then they take them. And that's the economic impact. That's what's really looked at, is the economic impact. But if you have, lots of times people don't pay attention, especially if they're doing something, special formulations and how they cook and things like that, or how they make their wines and all that. If somebody learns that trade and they copy it and take it someplace else, and it takes away your customer base, it's economic impact.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no.
Anybody have
What
any
about
other
when
questions?
it's a, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Jennifer. I was just asking for more questions.
Well, I had a comment about that, but then I did have a question. But what about when it's like a non-compete, like you can't work within like a 30-mile radius? Because like Virginia is a right to work state, correct?
Right.
So that
Yes.
wouldn't hold up, right, in the sstate of Virginia if it was trying
Yeah.
to keep you from getting a job.
Yeah. You can't put a thing there, because if you have a website, you're global.
Okay.
So you can't use that argument.
Yeah,
That's
if you believe Google, sometimes I don't, but it's the new rule, non-compete agreements should rarely include language which prohibits an employee from performing services directly or indirectly and in any capacity for a competing business. So you have to be, if you're writing a non-compete, you also have to give the person that is agreed to sign the non-compete something that you're not just giving all your employees to get for them to sign it.
right. Yes. You're
And I
correct on
wanted to
that.
ask you about that. Don't let the business like control you, control the business comment. So if you could elaborate on that more, because I'm still at work. It's 8 o'clock and I've still got
Yeah.
notes to type before I go home.
Yeah.
So how does that work again?
And this is where, and this is a key component, time management. Yeah, when you're starting out the business, you have this abundance of energy, and you're going to make a go of it and everything. And every time there's a little hiccup or something, you immediately focus on the business. And I tell people, you got to allocate time to say, this is my shutdown time. No matter what, this is my shutdown time.
Okay.
Because if you don't get a chance to regenerate, I promise you, I literally promise you, within a
gonna burn
year,
out.
you're going to be so fried out that you won't be the same person. And that's what people will start saying to you, and you'll know it. They'll say, when you used to laugh all the time, you don't
Yeah.
laugh anymore.
Well, I gotta be honest with you. I just got out of grad school, so I went back to grad school at 50. So first of all, I don't know what I was thinking, but like this every day for me is like the most fun because I'm not in grad school. So,
Yeah.
so like I'm loving it, as far as like being able to see patients and stuff. But I do feel like sometimes, I'm still here like really late, and I would
Yeah.
like to have a way where at 6 o'clock at least,
Yeah.
I'm gone, but
Yeah.
I don't know how to fit that in. Like, I don't know if it's a scheduling issue. Like,
You
my
hit
husband
it.
helps me. So,
Yeah, it's a scheduling issue. Now, one of the
okay.
things you could look at is literally break down your operation, okay,
Okay.
and literally determine what takes the most amount of time. You'll be able to see it, and then Also identify what you like to do and what you don't, because that's what takes you the most time to get done.
Okay.
And then at that
That's
point,
interesting.
you start making a decision. Can I potentially maybe farm this out? So
Okay.
like you're sitting here doing notes. Okay.
Notes are what I dread. Like
Yeah.
I could see patients every 15 minutes and
Okay.
be excited.
So you could sit here and say, could I actually just send it to someone if I just did the notes over voice and then just send it to them and have it type it up?
That is such a good idea.
What's the cost for that? You know,
I don't know.
it's
You're good though.
minuscule.
You're
It's
really
minuscule.
good.
It's minuscule for your cost of your time. Because the one thing I tell everyone is nobody ever calculates time cost. And when you die, I promise you, you'll regret all the time you lost, and nobody
Yes.
will remember what you did in your business.
I love it. Yeah, you just gave me a fantastic idea. Like, I mean, I could just quickly make a voice memo and send that out to someone to type and put in their system.
Yeah.
But what person wants to do that? That's the question.
Oh, actually,
I've
no.
got to find that person.
No, they're virtual assistants and things like that. They do that. That's a living for them because they used to do it from home.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of
Okay.
moms do that.
I love it.
And Jennifer, is there any way that you can take notes during the consult or the working with the patient that would reduce your time?
I do, but what I find is, so I have like special little forms for whatever type of appointment it is, and I clipboard them with all the papers that I need. But then I find that if I'm typing while they're talking to me, that I lose that personal connection. And I'm just so big on that. I want them to know that they're cared for when they're here and that I'm listening, and I don't want to lose that personal connection. I've even thought about getting an iPad so I can kind of like, pin it, and still be kind of involved. So it's something I'm definitely, been combating the past 3 or 4 months because the notes are, I mean, some of them are just pretty elaborate, depending on if they're going back to ENT or if they're being referred out for something, it's just, you want to send a good note because that's your business, that's your impression of someone else's impression of what kind of work you're doing in your office. So, I read them and reread them and proofread them. And so it's a lot of work. The notes are actually, it's so funny that he said that. What's the one thing you don't want to do? And that's what's taking you the longest. I'm just telling you, he's worth $1 million because that's the truth right there. The notes. So
And
I really appreciate that.
If you did an iPad, could you have it record or not record, but it will type out as you during the consult?
Yeah, maybe, possibly.
I mean, I don't know what kind of software that you use. And there may be something out there that's built for that, but
yeah. Well, our electronic medical record is one of our biggest expenses. So it is specifically for what we do, and we pay a lot of money for it. So I might reach out to them too and see what options they have for that right in the software. There might be some kind of option.
Because the technology's increased so much that there's got to be a way that at least if while you're in that consult, that as you're talking, your computer or your iPad is dictating that onto whatever form or however you set it up, or even in notes on your iPad. And as long as you're in control of it, you have that confidentiality. Just a thought.
Yep, I love it. Thank you guys.
There's also a time in any small business where you have to figure out what the most valuable 8 or 10 hours a day are for you to be doing. And in order to grow, you have to take that next leap and hire people to do some of the other work. You have a receptionist. Is their time being fully used? Are they doing the filing or and so you have to take a look at that too, because, even in hairdressing, I finally figured out that my time was better spent cutting hair than shampooing. Yeah. So, in a service business, you have to figure out what your valuable time is better served. And you have to find the types of employees, and that's how business grows is hiring employees to help your business thrive.
That's definitely something I'm going to consider after this round of my business competition. You guys have opened my eyes to that. Like, and I think we're ready for that. We could at least do like another part-time. So we have a full-time and a contract, but we could probably add another part-time for sure. So thank you guys. Thank all of you.
Well, sorry.
Oh.
Kitsy?
Well,
So
I just
quick.
wanted to add to that, Jennifer. When I was counseling, I had to do like in time notes, and the iPad is a great idea. Sending out your notes and that confidentiality to have someone else type them up for you is so sticky. So in time is okay. And what I used to tell my clients was, hey, I'm going to be jotting notes down on this. I had to use a laptop in our session so I can remember what we talked about for next time, because sometimes I'm forgetful. So that way you're letting them know, hey, I'm not ignoring you, and I still care about you, but I have to do these notes at the same time. And it will take up no extra time of your day. And because I hated notes too. Everybody hates doing notes.
Anybody else got any questions or comments?
I think John did, didn't he?
Yes. So what about in the matter of sales? If I'm not selling, then I'm not making money. If I'm not making money, I'm not being able to pay somebody to take the load off of me, because I have to wear all the hats, because I have to wear all that. I have no choice, because at this moment, being so new, and there's only so many hours of the day, and burn myself out doing everything. And I have no choice. I have to do that. Otherwise, my business won't survive. And I know
Well,
it's important.
you think you have to do that. Okay. You have to understand because you've talked several times about sales. So I'm figuring that's your strength, is selling, and that's your comfort zone. And so and basically sales is where money comes from. All right. And so at the end of the day, that's where your strength is. All these other things you're talking about you have to do, you actually could subcontract out part-time, which would free you up to do more sales to make more revenue. It's just that you have to step back and break it out. It's the biggest thing every business has, is they're scared to bring people in because it's a cost center. And I can't do it. And I'm thinking, well, wait a second. If it gives you the ability to make more revenue, what's the issue? And that's what tell people. You kind of have to look at everything, how much time you spend on it, how much you hate it. Because if you hate it, I promise you, it takes you 5 times longer than what you like. And that makes a big difference when you're trying to be productive, especially when you're trying to establish yourself. And those are things, and there's so many tools out there now that, available that can expedite your work and trim it for you and all that. And there's so many services that are being offered, people that are just offering because they just want to do something part-time. And so they do it, and they don't charge you an arm and leg. It's just supplemental for them. So it's something, like I said, you just kind of have to look at it, because your strength of sales, that's where the money comes from. If you're spending your time 3 hours over here on the other stuff, that's 3 hours of sales you've lost.
Unlike Jennifer, she has people that come to her specifically for her business.
Yeah.
I have to defend people coming off the street. And again, if I don't have what they like, they walk back out the door.
Yeah.
So they're not specifically looking. So I'm not making that money to pay somebody to do that.
Yeah, but the one thing you have to realize is, and you should, because the number of years you've done it, one of the key questions I would ask you, what's your hit ratio? So for every 10 customers that come in, how many are a sale?
Are you asking or just?
Yeah, no, I'm literally asking.
Oh, I'm sorry. 2, 3.
Okay. All right. 2. All right. So 20% of that. Okay. And I promise you, within the first 5 minutes, you already know whether they're going to a potential or not.
Yes.
Okay. That's what I'm talking about. I can push people out the door very quickly because I know they're not going to be a factor. And it's a polite way of doing it, but it frees my time up. That's what I'm talking about. These are little things you do to get you time. You know, and so that's the thing you got to understand. When people I used to go in and they said, we're going to talk about a contract. I go in, I knew within the first 2 minutes whether it was even a chance for me to get it or not. If it didn't, I just said, it's been nice talking to you. I don't think it's anything I'm interested in. And I left because my time's really important to me. So just a food for thought.
Sure. Thank you.
There's a couple other things when it comes to retail sales. You have to realize what products you're the only one that's interested in. Retail sales is one of those situations where, you start selling something and if it's not turning over quickly, you probably need to find another product to replace it with. Retail is very you have to sell a product 3 times to make a profit on it. So you don't want to leave a bunch of stuff sitting in the store.
Big box stores doesn't help either. When they sell items 3 or 4 times cheaper than either.
Yeah.
It's something
that's a product choice.
Something that I've noticed as well. I have a retail establishment aside from what I'm here representing, but it's also a big thing of like recognizing what people are willing to spend their money on anymore. The things that were selling for us last year or the year before, nobody's even looking at now. So now, you have to pivot a little bit and recognize, okay, well, 10 people today stopped and looked at that shelf. What's on that shelf? Maybe they didn't buy it, but it's interesting to them now. That maybe wasn't interesting or changed since last year or the year before. So it's always changing. It's always, it's our responsibility to find those items that people want to spend their money on now.
Well, you got to remember something, okay? And one of the key things about our society, Western culture society, is we're a throwaway society. So it is a season. And if they find something that they like better, the other thing's out the door already. That's how short-lived it is anymore. And so I always tell people, you have to keep in mind what you're talking about. You have to bring in new things. Otherwise, people don't come back to your store because they say, well, let's just have the same old stuff. And so people stop coming. So you have to do that just to keep the interest. And once you know those customers, you're able to connect if you what they bought in the past. You say, oh yeah, how'd the outfit, and or whatever it may be. And yeah, and I said, well, I got something else now that could replace that. That's already had a good life. You could donate that, you get that out to your taxes. Or if you're able to recycle it in your arena, you take it back and you go put it someplace else. Those are things you look at.
Collecting those email addresses so you can get to those folks quickly too is another. So when you get new products, you can instantly let them know what you have.
Next week is our marketing session, and Letterpress Communication is going to be leading that. And those are some questions about that would be good to ask in regards to connecting and staying connected and relevant with your customers. Just wanted to say that, put that plug in.
Okay, well, if we don't have any other questions, it's been a good third session. And we thank Carl. Billie's already, I think somebody said she wasn't feeling well, but it's always good to see Carl, whether it's on screen or in person. And he's a great resource. So make sure you collect his contact information. And
Carl is on our mentor list too. So if you don't use him during the competition, at least put him in your contacts going down the road. Carl, we're not going to let you retire, so don't even think about it. But seriously, though, he's a great resource because he comes from a variety of experience, and plus he's all over the state. So take advantage of that. Sorry, Kathy.
No, I was going to say the same thing. Carl is easy to use when it comes to business, so don't hesitate to talk to Carl.
And his rates are really, really affordable.
They're great rates.
So
well, thanks
cheap.
everybody, and Carl, thanks again.
No
Look
problem.
forward to seeing everybody next Tuesday. In the meantime, work on your business plan. If you need any kind of help, have any kind of questions, you've got all the team, all of our contact information. Don't wait, ask. We want to make sure that you're successful through this whole adventure. So, and we're doing it for you. That's why we're still here at 8:00. See, Jennifer, we work late too. But everybody, have a blessed rest of your evening and look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.